I am hitting record and I'm going to just do a verbal dump of what's in my brain because I'm just having some thoughts. I'm thinking about like the next moves in my business and kind of what I see for myself as far as being a bookseller. This brain dump is just going to be a lot of me just kind of trying to think out loud, but I figured I'd capture it because this could potentially be me capturing the thought that I do want to in fact close my bookstore. It could be me thinking of a really smart way to pivot. It could be me not having the answers at the end. So I'm just going to kind of like think, and I might think out loud because a lot of times I do my best thinking out loud. So I'm just gonna think about what I have to think about. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, I opened up a storefront about a year ago here locally in my area. I live in a very large area where there is a lot of military and just a high population of people. And back when I started reselling and selling books in particular, I had a high demand for an in-person shopping experience. And I knew at some point in my business that that was going to be something that I accomplished. And I did. I set up about a year ago. I loved the way it turned out. I think it's absolutely precious, and it was so enjoyed by so many people. I had families with children of all ages coming in and scooping up books and plush and little toys and trinkets and walking out so happy. And it was so enjoyable for the first few months. Going to them multiple times a week to search shelves and things like that. Is that going to give me enough inventory? Like, that's a good question to ask. I do need to maybe nail that down a little bit more. Do I want to do one of those shows a month? And I think the answer is yes. When I was selling on Facebook, which is how I got started selling books and anything really in the first place was through Facebook, I did really well. I did well enough that made me think I need all this space. So with the store, it is an in-person shopping experience. And there are people that when I first opened were very excited. I was extremely busy my grand opening. We did an excellent grand opening. And then the following like 2 or 3 weeks were like pretty good. Like they were okay, but they were not nearly as good. Money was tight. My budget couldn't go towards growing the store, unfortunately. And maybe it should have, but it didn't. And I don't want it to now. I don't know. I want to keep my money in a situation where I know it's working. And so throwing it back into this model works really well. Buying books that I then go put on that shelf just for them to sit there for the 1 or 2 people that are walking through the door to dig through. It just doesn't seem like a smart use of my inventory. It seems like I'm just putting money over there for later, maybe to take it up later. I don't know. But I struggle with restocking that store. I struggle with going over there regularly and putting more books on the shelves. That's not something I'm passionate about. I think I need to write things down. I just kind of wrote down like the store responsibilities, the things that I have to do in order to run this store. And so the basics are these ones here, right? You have to pick the books for the store, price them, put them on the shelves, and maintain it, clean it. This is the part that I don't like doing and I don't want to do. So first up is marketing, which means like locally through business cards, flyers, or promoting events. So I'm doing advertising right now. Advertising is great. I have a Facebook group, all that's fine, but I need to do some marketing. I need to get people excited about my business. And then I think an important component of what running that store entails also is Facebook selling, which is something I don't want to do. I hate Facebook selling absolutely to my core, but I think that posting weekly with either listings in Facebook groups that are local pickup and or shipping, because I like the online component. So I can do stuff with shipping still too. I just wanted to flip back around for a second because I think that's what I'm trying to say, is that store entails so much more than just the responsibilities of it. It's not just picking out the books, pricing them, and putting on the shelves and then being open the few hours a week that I'm open. It also requires me marketing my business as a business, not just like, hey, I'm here, but like, this is why you should want to come in, which is the ultimate point of most businesses. Also, like, this is something I was going to write down, but I didn't, is the pros and cons. So the pro of having the space versus the con of having the space. So pro, we'll go back and forth. Pro, storage space. It is basically a storage unit for my business. It's super great. There's even room for me to move more things over here, over there if I needed to get them out of the way. And if I wanted to really amp the online shipping component, turning that entire room eventually into a giant shipping station would be really cool. So room, storage, space, things like that. Con, price, right? I'm paying for that space. So that's a lot of money to pay for a storage unit, essentially. Another pro of that space is that I have all those bookshelves there already. So keeping that space allows me to basically not have a huge overflow of bookshelves that I would have nothing to do with. I put so much time and energy into building those things, and I'm just really happy with that. And it's a bummer to think that something that I built that I think is really cool is not being appreciated. And instead of me just doing the hard work of marketing, I'm just like, well, I just might just stop doing that. You can make it a successful business though. Why don't you just do that? Why don't you do the marketing? See, this is helpful. I gotta yell at myself. Another con is I'm limiting myself. I'm taking space away from me as a presence, a real estate of this space, giving me that option to maybe utilize that for expansion or something in the future, or a really functional storage space, right? That is it more worth me spending the rent on that location versus a storage unit? Like if I went out and priced similar spaced storage units, how much would it cost me, right? And how far away is it? Is it climate controlled? There's so many components to that like scenario. There's a lot of possible upsides to keeping that store. There's a lot of possible downsides to shutting it down, or to not even shutting the store down per se, but just giving up that space, right? Like it not being my space. But I figured this is how I'd feel at the end of this like brain dump, because I am recording, but I will think about it more. I just started thinking about it in the last like 24 to 48 hours, like really like thinking about it. Writing stuff down does help, thinking like about how I physically need to run it, and if I want to do that, or if it's worth it to not. How much space do I actually need to run the operation I'm running? That's like a really good question, because I'm not grown out of this space by any means. I'm just trying to figure out if I actually need less, which is a great place to be in, to not feel like, oh, well, I need more space. I'm the opposite. I'm needing to determine if I need less space. With that said, I'm feeling really good about kind of where I'm standing currently. I'll think about this more and of course update you once I kind of determine what my decision is. But as for right now, I just have some more thinking to do. I recorded that footage 2 months ago, and since then I've made the decision to officially close my storefront. After weighing the pros and cons, I realized that it seemed fairly obvious that I was not only not passionate about having the storefront, being a shopkeeper, and tending to the in-person shopping experience, but that I was not willing to do the things that needed to be done to make that model lucrative for the amount of time I needed to invest into it. After a little more thought, I concluded that I do want to keep the space, however, and continue paying the rent on it, as that will allow my current online model to grow. It'll add space that no longer needs to be presentable to the public as it is an in-person store, and it can act as sort of a landing ground for new inventory, as this is actually the first space that you see when entering my building. Secondly, it's going to become the official photography station for my listings. It now is a station that can remain set up at all times and doesn't have to be taken down, unlike my current photography setup now. This will be a huge game changer, because now that means that I can photograph without feeling like I'm hindering the other parts of my workspace. This will now allow me to separate the listing and selling process and kind of streamline the efficiency in both of those processes within my business. It's also going to remove a ton of stress that I feel like is added to my plate when I think about listing, because it feels like I have to set up and then deconstruct the photography station every time I want to list. As I've said a million times, listing is my least favorite thing to do, and so if this is something I can do to make this a more efficient and streamlined process, that is what I'm going to do. I think this is really going to up my listing game and allow me to get more listings out onto the sites that I sell on. on. Lastly, the main pivot or addition that this space is going to allow is that all of the shelves that you see behind me are now going to be available for inventory and back stock. This will now shelve all of the books that I need whenever I'm pulling inventory for a new show. So now when I'm setting up my show and picking up the books I'm going to sell that night, I can come to these shelves and pick off of them instead of the massive stacks that I usually have lying underneath my main table. This also allows me to keep this additional back room that I can use for overflow inventory such as plush or the things I sell at my yard sales. I do in-person yard sales in the summer and fall. This is also just going to allow me to have more space within this office to grow and to store things as I need them. There's so much potential having this much space to be able to grow my business so much more than it already is, and that is so exciting to me. I don't necessarily know what the next few years or even the next decade in my business are going to look like, but I'm sure I'm going to come across tons of opportunities that I'm going to want to implement into my business, and I want to be able to be in a position to say yes to those opportunities. I want to have the space where I can receive large shipments of inventory if I want to start getting into pallets or bulk purchasing. I want to be able to just say yes because I don't have a limited amount of space and I have room to grow. This is so much better than being tapped out and feeling like I have no space and no place to grow outside of the current office that I have. Having these 4 rooms inside of this one building are going to be astronomical for the success of my business. Now, I don't look at the closing of my store as a failure in my business. I really look at it as a great learning lesson. I'm very happy that I did it, but I think that it is ultimately the right decision to go ahead and close this part of my business model down. I really think this decision just allows me to truly focus and grow in my online selling presence. All right, so that's the general plan for this space. What do you guys think? What do you think I should use this space for? Is there something I'm missing or think I'm leaving out? It's a pretty nice square-sized room with wall-to-wall bookshelves, and I think the possibilities are endless. Go ahead and drop in the comments below, like, what would you do with this space? What do you think I should do? Is there something I'm missing? I'm also super excited to share the progress of this store and moving it into more of a functional space within an online reselling business. So if you're at all interested in kind of seeing what this space is going to turn into and how I'm utilizing it to elevate my business, definitely make sure you're liking and subscribing and following along on this journey. I make content regarding all things online selling. I do specialize in books, but I also do plush, educational material, and some other odds and ends at times. So if you like that kind of content, please make sure you have subscribed. I do also talk a lot about whatnot if this is your first time here. For next week's video, I decided to do something a little bit different, and I'm gonna go live for the very first time on YouTube. I am so excited to do a live show with you guys, sit down and field questions, answer them live on the spot, and just kind of hang out and chat. We will probably be on for about an hour or 2, and I will just take questions as they come into the comments and answer them directly live. If you're watching this, that live should already be scheduled for next Wednesday. You can click on my profile, go to that live tab, and make sure that you are bookmarking or putting that bell notification on so that when I go live, you'll get notified and you can pop in and join us. All right, I think that is all for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I can't wait to see you guys next week on our first live ever. Have a great week until then, and thank you so much. Bye.